Hi plant loving friends, Liz here from Groovy Plants Ranch to talk to you about one of our favorite plants, Callisia repens Bianca. This beauty has variable variegation, which means that it's both green and pink, and we don't really have any control about what parts of the plant are pure pink, what parts are pure green, and what parts are 50-50. So that makes a really fun thing about this plant, and we really love it. So I just want to talk to you about basic care, how to keep it nice and pink, and then some shipping information. So first of all, Callisia, you take care of these just like an inch plant. Put them in bright but indirect light and water them when they are mostly dry. Don't let them go bone dry or they will shed some of their inner leaves. So if they go bone dry, they get rid of some of the leaves that are on the inside, whereas the ones on the ends will still look nice. So when you water, make sure you totally soak that soil so that they're getting a good drink. And when you're choosing your light location for bright indirect light, a great choice is in front of a window that has bright sun but doesn't get hot afternoon sun. You can also choose to put it up to 6 feet away from a very bright window or in a very, very bright room. This plant can take less sun than that, but if you use less sun than that, what's going to happen is instead of having a nice draping effect, your stems are going to start getting longer in between nodes and standing straight up. So you lose some of that compact look. As I mentioned, this has about 50-50 variegation. We've gotten pretty good at propagating them so that they have a good mix. Sometimes you do get plants that have a lot more pink in them. We do not ship these because they are weaker when they have a lot of pink and they do not ship well. If you want one that's got a lot of pink, you'll have to come in person and hand pick one out. We also do not ship ones that have a lot of green, which does also happen. Once again, in store, if you want one that has more green, you'll be able to choose that as well. As your plant is growing, you will find that the pure green stems and the stems that are green with a little bit of pink striping will grow faster than the very pink ones. Just go ahead and pinch those out. So when you do that, you're going to find a branch that is all green or has mostly green. You're going to use trimmers, or you can even pinch out with your fingers and just get rid of those guys. And you don't want to propagate these because if they don't have any pink on them, they're just going to propagate as straight green. You may want that, but if you want to propagate, make sure that you have some pink on the leaves. So, now I want to talk to you about shipping. If you buy one of these plants online from us, we ship to all 50 states. We ship to as many states as we can with soil. When you get shipped with soil, it stays in this pot. We wrap a little bit of wood shavings around it, put some tissue paper around it, and put it in a cardboard tube. They ship really well. But there are some states we have to ship bare root to because of USDA regulations, and I want to show you how that works. So right now you have a nice full 3.5 inch pot. This is about how full plants are when we ship them. And then I'm going to go ahead and remove the soil. And this is what we do when we're shipping to select states. That information can be found on the listing or on our shipping page if you want to see if your state is a bare root state. The bare root states do change periodically, so I'm not going to list them right now. So what I'm doing is I'm just carefully taking all the excess soil out. What we're doing is we're taking the soil off because we are in a state that has a permanent quarantine for Japanese beetles. These plants would never have Japanese beetles in them, but that does not mean that these plants are exempt. So we're just removing enough soil so that you could see if there were bugs or eggs in them. And then what we do is we take that and we wrap tissue paper around it and we ship it to you. So when you receive this plant bare root, it's going to look significantly smaller than when it came in your pot. So this is what it looks like right now, and then imagine what would happen if it was not getting any water for 3 days. It's going to look pretty thin. We do get some customers that are a little bit surprised by the size because when you bare root it, it just looks so small. And there really is not very much mass to this plant, so that center part could fit into a plug, but this is not a plug. This is a plant that was grown in a 3.5 inch pot. So you can see how much smaller it looks. When you get this plant and it's bare root, you're going to want to remove it from its packaging as quickly as possible, and you're going to want to plant it up. We always recommend using a pot with a hole. You don't have to do terracotta. Any pot with a hole is fine. See, hole? And that is just so that you don't overwater and you have good drainage in between waterings. What you're going to do is you're going to take your soil, and I'm using a well-draining potting mix here. Nothing too crazy. I'm just going to use my fingers, pushing a hole into the soil. I'm not pushing down. I'm pushing in and then out. You don't want to compress the soil underneath the roots because that will make it harder for the roots to grow. You want to compress the soil against the walls because the roots aren't necessarily trying to grow into the walls. You're going to carefully take your plant, put it near soil, and then you are going to push soil around it. And many times when this plant has gotten thirsty and so a little bit droopier in shipping, it will look as if it doesn't want to fill a 4-inch pot, but that does not mean it did not start out filling the pot. You just need to move the stems around. Keep in mind this plant grows from cuttings, and then stems all sort of intermingle as it's growing. Do not attempt to untangle them. That will cause the stems to break. They are pretty fragile, and if you try to untangle them, they'll start cracking. If you find that you have 1 or 2 stems that broke in shipping, these things can happen occasionally. Go ahead and take those stems, like the one I pinched, here it is, and you can just take that, put it right in the soil, and it should root in several days, and it'll keep growing. As this plant gets bigger, once again, I did mention pinching out the extra green, you might also find that it's getting too long. Just go ahead and give it a good haircut. If it's getting really long, say your stems are all the way down to the edge of the pot, don't trim it at the edge of the pot. You'll be trimming it every week. Trim it half as far up as you want it to grow so that it has some time to grow. Every time you cut it, you will actually branch from that cutting. So instead of having 1 stem coming from a cut, you'll get 2 or 3, and so you get a nice full plant. So make sure that you keep that in mind while you're cutting it. You're actually going to get a happier, more full plant if you cut it and let it branch out. Thanks for watching this video, and if you have any other questions about your plant, please feel free to reach out to us. Have a planty day.